I bought a house in Cabo to shake off my cargo. It went a little bit far though. I didn't blow my top off. Now 6 by Arsenal. I didn't drive my car home when I drank that charcoal. Man, I miss my mom so. Ask me how it feels. I say it feels too real. When you pick up speed towards pitch black weed. Well, you got your thoughts all the in there deep. What about your heart? Does it beat too hard? Mine does. Mine does. Mine does. Mine does. I ran around Lake Tahoe. Not once, don't stop, no. Cause I'm a brand new model with a brand new model. Yeah, I called up Carlos. Said I won't be calling. He said in my old tempo.
All right, sure.
It wouldn't make much sense, so yeah. Ask me how it feels. I said it feels too real. When you pick up speed, towards the pitch black weed. Well, you got your thoughts all the in there deep. What about your heart? Does it beat too hard? Mine does. Mine does. Mine does. Mine does.
Ladies and gentlemen, what's going on with you, everybody? Good to see you tonight. Glad that you were here. Welcome to another edition of Sir Hell Speaks. It feels good to be back. I hope you guys are in for a great night. Hope you had a great week, and I hope that you're off to a great weekend. We have a fantastic conversation that I'm honored that we got a couple of guests that are going to be on tonight. I'm really glad that they're going to be here. But before we get to the meat of the conversation, let's do some housekeeping. Did you guys come and hit that like button? Did you hit the like button? Whether you're watching on your phone, on your iPad, on your television, on your computer, did you hit the like button? The second thing is, did you invite somebody to this conversation? And you're probably asking, why is this conversation important? Because while you guys saw the title about marriage being done, we're talking about trauma tonight. And I've got some people who are going to be on here, and we're going to kind of do a deep dive, because I think that part of the reason, something that's really not talked about very much, is the effects of trauma on the relationships we have all throughout our life. And so tonight, what we're going to do is going to have a very practical conversation. I'm going to facilitate that conversation, and you guys are going to get an opportunity to hear some thoughts on the different aspects in how trauma affects us and how this plays out in our lives today. All right, so good. You guys are here. You guys hit that like button. Salute to everybody in the building. Let me do a quick run through real quick. Dr. Nakumba, we waiting on you, sir. We're waiting on you. Shout out to the one of the only SHSC, and what's going on with you, baby? What's going on with you? Good to see you, my love. What's going on, Miss Anya? Good to see you tonight. Take heed to the message. He is in the building. Shout out to Ron Alexander, who is in the building. Good to see you. The one of the only Red Lipstick Vibes, ladies and gentlemen, she is here. Salute to you. Good to see you tonight. Glad that you are here. Good to see the one of the only Jasmine Says It All. What's going on with you? Good to see you. I saw you doing them squats in the gym. I saw you doing your thing. Shout out to you, Jasmine Says It All. Good to see you. And Square Roots is in the building. Good to see you as well. Dr. Nakumba, I see you in the building. Von Eric is here. Okay, guys, I see people coming in. So yeah, we're doing good. You guys come on in. We're gonna have a really good time. So Dr. Nakumba, I will drop the link. Moderators, this link is specifically for Dr. Nakumba. This link is specifically for Dr. Nakumba. Grego, I see you in the building. Glad that you're here tonight. Glad to see you. Okay, guys, so we're off to a great conversation. I'm going to bring up my first guest now. You guys know her. She got a special place in my heart. You mess with her, you mess with me. And I'm in the gym. You don't want to mess with me. So that means you don't want to mess with her. She is in the building. She has a great perspective, great channel, great heart. She's somebody who I've grown to deeply respect and have a trust for. I've got a trust for. And I admire the depth to which she has conversations with. So I'm gonna tell you guys something. When I first started doing content, I was hard. I'm talking about goodness. I went back and looked at some of my old videos, and I'm like, dang, you said that like that? Like, it's no wonder you get cussed out. It's no wonder the aunties start cussing you. I'm like, it was tough. And it's not that my intent was simply to come off fiery. It's just when I'm passionate about something, I don't know how else to be other than direct. But as you meet people and you learn and you refine your skills, you add a little bit more tact to what you do, and then you read the room. One of these, the persons who's going to be up here had a profound effect on me not changing my message, but refining the methodology through which I communicate. And I got to give her props because she did this in ways that I'm not even sure she tried to on purpose. It's just who she is. You know, she came up here, she spoke truth. She is an expert listener. If you ever have a conversation with her, she's an active listener. She's trying to hear what you're saying and then reading through between the lines to hear what you're not saying as a way to get a full perspective of the thoughts that you're sharing. Not only that, she's a praying person. She's a praying woman. She's faithful. She loves God. And she has gone through a series of events in her life that she didn't do what so many people do. They go through the experience and the experience changes them and it alters them and they don't grow through it. And instead of allowing the situation to silence her, she made changes, because you know how she says, when nothing changes, nothing changes. Everybody, I want you to show your love for the one and the only, somebody I really respect, I really admire, the one and the only, Miss Bravo with Sheila. Ladies, let's chat. She is in the building. Can you show your love in the chat? Everybody show your love.
Hello, Sir Hale. How are you?
Hey, I'm good. Good to see everybody. Y'all show that love to Bravo with Sheila. She is in the building. We are very glad to have her tonight. So glad that you're here.
I'm so happy to be here. Hello to everyone in the chat. God bless you. I'm so excited to be here. I just love when Sir Hale and I can get together and chop it up and share and encourage each other. And I'm always here in his platform in the chat, and just listening. And we did meet each other kind of like early one morning. It was 8 o'clock in the morning, and yep. Next thing you know, he was pulling me up on the platform. I was like, what is going on? But I think that was the Lord introducing me, like not letting me get myself together. He just threw me out here in these YouTube streets. So I'm happy to be here tonight. I think that we together are going to share some wonderful jewels for the people and the doctor when he comes.
Now, listen, for those of you guys might be new to the channel. Does anybody remember Sir Hale in the Morning? Does anybody remember that? Now, I know this, like, we're in 2023, and I think that was what, 2022. Does anybody remember Sir Hale in the Morning? If you do, just put a 1 in the chat. That's how Lady Bravo and I, we used to start shows at 6:45 a.m. Central Time.
Wow.
Be up on it, y'all. I mean, I thought I was doing something. And that's how we met. We would talk about stuff. And then I think we were talking about, I forgot what it was, but Lady Bravo came up, gave a perspective. She prayed for us. And it has literally been, it's been a connection ever since then. And yes. We're grateful. I was so serious about this. I told my wife, I said, Lady Hale, I need you to find her. I don't know who. I forgot her name. Find her channel, reach out, and then the rest was history.
Yes.
And I said that to say, when you guys meet people who are genuine, don't sleep on that. You make a connection. You're introduced to people for a reason. Mm-hmm. And since then, I told you, can't nobody say about Bravo with Sheila. Like, she's special to me. So I thank you for being here tonight. I'm really glad that you're here.
I am so too. Much. Yes, I am too. It's wonderful.
Yeah, Miss She said, I see you in the building. Good to see you tonight. Glad that you are here. So what are we doing tonight? What's the purpose of the show? The purpose of the show tonight is we talk a lot about marriage, and I have a particular vertical that I speak on, but I've been listening with a different ear lately. about people and what they say. And I noticed there's a lot of pain that comes out whenever you start talking about marriage and relationships, which has made me believe that I think everybody's got some trauma. Now, whether this trauma is unprocessed or is being addressed, that's left up, for us to discuss with people. But I think there's a genuine trauma that people experience in every aspect. So we got family trauma, we got trauma when we're developing and we're trying to come into our own, and then trying to keep up and make our way in the world. So I think that's what it is. So let me start by asking a very general question. And this is for everybody who's listening, because we throw the word out trauma and we throw these psychological terms in very simple words. To you, what is trauma? And chat, you're more than welcome to answer this as well. What is trauma?
Trauma is identified on different grounds and different levels. And according to American Psychological Association, it says that trauma is an emotional response to a terrible event, and can occur once or multiple occasions. But then you move to use that word trauma to traumatized, right? Sometimes people connect it to and say that's one meaning. Traumatized is people or person that can feel a range of emotions, both immediately and after the event in a long-term process. So the difference of trauma and being traumatized, So, yeah, and sometimes people don't differentiate the two. Oh, I'm traumatized. Oh, you got to know where you are. And sometimes we just don't know or understand that we're even traumatized or working and living in a trauma space.
So let me ask you a question. And this may sound crazy, but I'm asking this because, you hear, let's say you hear a story of somebody who's gone through, the worst of the worst. They lived in a mountaintop and they one day left out of their home and they slipped on ice, fell down 2 miles of the mountain, hit tree branches, they ran into a skunk, they hit a horse, hit the pavement. You'd be like, my story don't compare to this, right? So that's trauma. And then you got somebody else who may be dealing with something that seems less significant. Mm-hmm. So my question is trauma, or do you have to experience, is there like a threshold of experience or pain or issues that this amount constitutes trauma?
Yeah, the effect of it, when you think about PTSD and people who have severe situations that flashback. And then you can have someone who has been tampered with, and it seems minute the way they've been tampered. Someone will minimize it, but then I believe that it depends on how you're packaged, how you process, and how you hold on to those things, because the body is listening to everything. And based on where you come from, how you were taught, learned behavior, environmental impact, all of that is combined with how I process either something as minute or something that's grande.
I want to make sure I heard you clearly. You said the body is listening.
Yes.
Everybody, I want you to keep a pin there. We're going to come back to that. That's heavy. Everybody, my other guest is here as well. You guys, please keep the comments coming. My other guest is here. Dr. Nkumbi is in the building. Had the privilege of talking with him. I forget how we met, Doctor, but I'm glad we did. I met the doctor, and you hear his profound ability to relate very scholastic, psychological truths and facts, and to relate them in very understandable terms so that the common listener can understand and then relate it to their life. I respect his ability to do that and the humility through which he shares. A very down-to-earth person, but somebody highly educated and experienced. Everybody show your love for the one and the only, the Dr. Nkumbi. He is in the building. He was in the building, so he'll be back. Hold on, y'all. We'll go to commercial break. We'll be right back. Man, listen, y'all saw the introduction. I just gave my CNN introduction, and then the camera went up. We're gonna do this again. We'll come back. We'll circle back. So this is good. Y'all keep the responses coming in, and I'll read them. Lady Sheila, Lady Hell says trauma is. She says, I would say Trauma is a reaction to certain things that cause one either to fight or flight. Absolutely. Anye says pain that sits on your lap for a while. I think I understand that example. Mona D says hello, bravo with Sheila.
Hi, Mona D.
Salute Scooby. He says, hey fam, I hope all is well with you, here for the support. Good to see you, man. Thank you for being here. Jasmine Says It All says a negative emotion that's caused by an event that can affect you psychologically. And she's right, the body does listen. Good term. Yep, absolutely. I told you. Yeah, I'm gonna mark this comment because we got to come back to this. It's so prolific, and this is why I love when you talk to other thinkers. Other thinkers say stuff that make you think about something, and the conversation just flows. So y'all keep a pin here. We're gonna revisit this. The doctor is in the building. Dr. Nakambi. Let me get back on my. I did CNN. Let me do Fox real quick, ladies and gentlemen. The one and the only. He is here ready to share his perspective tonight with everyone who's watching. He's a skilled individual, someone who is licensed and certified to speak very intelligently on psychological matters. Everybody show your love for the one and the only, Dr. Nakambi. He's in the building. That was Fox for you, baby. I'm telling you, I'm gonna do this thing, y'all. So Dr. Nakambi, he's in the building. What's up, sir?
Good evening. So sorry for all the challenges and difficulties. Good evening. How are you doing? How are you both doing?
Good. And yourself?
Excellent. Fabulous.
Wonderful.
Glad to be here. Thank you, and hello to everyone in the chat.
Yeah, good to see you. Thanks for being here. I really got to hear you. So I know you're just coming in here, but what we've done so far is we've pretty much gone through like what exactly is trauma. And the reason I'm asking this basic question is because I think people, you hear a word thrown around enough and you start attaching, contemporary meanings to it, and it gets away from the root of it. So if you can, what exactly is trauma? And then the second point to this, I talked about, you hear somebody with a terrible story. Fall off the top of the mountain, hit everything down, ran into a lion, got hit by a gazelle, the bird came and chirped up, just terrible. And then you got somebody else who they got yelled at. So my question is, the second, what is trauma? And then what's the threshold that constitutes trauma? Like you go through this and this is not, so it's on you.
Excellent question. And first thing, a couple things. With that question, I want to first explain that it's an injury to the brain. And this particular injury does not cure. You can't cure it. So research has shown injury to the brain, you can do a scan 10 years later, and that same part, even psychologically, is still impacted. So people can heal, people can work on, people can treat, but they cannot cure. And the reason I want to highlight that is because many people say, oh, that was decades ago. Part of your question, fell off a mountain when I was 7 years old. What's that have to do with me now at 40? But it never heals. You can't cure it. So therefore, it can recycle. And then if you consider psychological trauma, it actually impacts the part of the brain where your reasoning is, your judgment is, not just bad issues. You can have a happy time, birthday party. Sir Hale, I throw you a birthday party, total surprise. You and I throw someone else a birthday party. We got him. Notice we haven't thrown me a party. Somehow you got my birth date, and you and everyone else plot against me and throw a birthday party. That sounds like a good thing. However, falling off the mountain or being fondled in some way or touched in some way, the impact, and I forget who our other co-host is, what she was talking about earlier, the impact of the event and is so, like, we don't see it. Even if you told me that, I wouldn't know it did that. It's almost like a person who has a physical injury and they hit their head and they don't realize they're in shock. So the impact is what lingers. So therefore, whatever happened to me as a kid, if I fell off the mountain, the impact of that is, why did I fall off? Who was supposed to be protecting me? Why didn't they protect me? And I know that I'm injury prone. So if a parent or protector was there and they didn't save me, the impact of that fall, or if I got touched by an uncle, a neighbor, Where was my protector? So now I'm already impacted by that, where 30 days, 30 years later, I'm thinking I'm not safe. So this birthday surprise, even though I trust you, the trauma that happened with someone who I was supposed to trust, that's a form of betrayal trauma. There's a name for everything, but there's betrayal trauma. I feel betrayed by the people who didn't protect me, either from the fall or from the neighbor touching me. The betrayal piece. I don't feel safe. That was a long fall, and I was in the hospital for decades, it seemed like. So I'm scared to be around certain things. So it's not the fall per se, but the fear, the impact of the fall. So now you throw me a surprise party, and I'm none the wiser. Surprise! You know, hey, wasn't that a good thing? Hey, man, first of all, you lied to me. You played me. Wow, it was your birthday. Relax. I am relaxed. You played me. I felt violated. Hint, hint. The impact of the trauma over here. Violated. Now someone lied to me. I thought if I went to the mountain and I followed the rules and the signs said don't do, and I didn't expect a goat to come out, I thought I could take a selfie with the bear behind me and it wouldn't bite me. So I felt played, lied to, and tricked. So to bring that to a landing, the impact of the trauma is what bothers us later in life.
Oh my God. Oh.
And then so speaking to what constituted, it sounds like there's no real, like, no one can tell you what trauma is. It's really the impact it has on you, whatever that thing might be. Is that fair to say?
Fair. Dr. Young, Jeff Young, within the last 20 years says schemas get planted in the brain. So pending the trauma, a schema is planted in the brain. If anyone wants to look it up, Jeff Young, Dr. Young, schemas, SCHEMES, and there's 18 most significant ones. Trust, abandonment, neglect, injury, inadequacy, that's a killer, not good enough. So the trauma happens, but because the injury, remember, it's an injury. It's not just some magic dust. It's an injury to the brain and psychological. So if someone touched me in a certain way and I really didn't realize it, maybe I'm only 3, 4, 5 years old, but I'm told, well, that goes against what's been planted. All the information that's been planted, that's like it goes against. And so within that part of my brain, I now have this particular injury. If I'm aware of it, again, I fell. Mom is sick, and when she's in the hospital, that has nothing to do with me. But the reason I feel traumatized, so it's not the trauma, but when I feel traumatized is because, isn't she supposed to be here tonight? Where's mom? Where's mom? Abandonment, even though that's not what's happening, but my brain is processing abandonment, neglect, fear, scared for her. What if I'm one of those kids that wants to do for mom and I can't do for mom, and where's mom? So I feel like I failed, and 20 years later I won't apply for a certain job. 20 years later I won't get in a certain relationship because I'm afraid to fail because
Hey, doctor,
of the impact of the trauma.
Doctor, your audio is going out just a little bit. I want to make sure everybody's hearing this pretty good, but it seems like when you go away a little bit, the audio goes out. Is everybody in chat? Can you guys hear Doctor pretty clearly?
Oh,
yeah, if you can hear Doctor pretty clearly, put a 1 in the chat. I want to make sure everybody is getting all of this.
Mm-hmm.
Doctor, please go ahead. It looks like when you move away a bit, it goes out. But when you come back, it comes back in.
All right, yeah, let me know. Sorry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's back on you, Doc.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're good. Yeah, Doctor, it's only you. I'm not sure where you're done.
Okay, all right. So anyway, it's the impact. So that injury to the brain. Remember where it's planted in the brain. It's in the areas, 3 parts of the brain. 3 parts in your reasoning. So I'm in a vehicle, and I have one of those fancy systems, the alert, G-Star and blow and, call the satellite. I have that system right there. I can speak. They listen to everything I say. I kiss my baby, and they're listening to everything. Anyway, but that system is right there. Sorry. And then someone comes to my vehicle. They hijack me, no pun intended. They get out the vehicle. They only rob me, and then I get back in the car. During the time of the robbery, everything zoned in, like my sense of reasoning was impaired. say sometimes, man, like I've had to tell you 10 times, why do you keep getting with that person? Are you that stupid? You must like the business. You must like this bad treatment. It's like a zone out. I don't even see. It's like seeing red. People say, carry the sign, get a tattoo on you that you can always look at it. Those things are a blur. You literally go like this with your reasoning and judgment and ability to respond in a traumatic episode. Now, once I get back in the vehicle and start to calm down, and then guess what I say? God dang it, I should have just pressed the button. So it's after the fact. And that's what trauma does. So there's a traumatic episode, but the actual trauma to the brain is an injury. And then how we respond to it is based on how we were impacted by it.
Excellent breakdown. Everybody in the chat, did you guys get this? If you guys are hearing this, let Dr. Nakumbe know. We're going to move forward a bit. This is a very profound thing because I think people hear trauma and it almost feels like, so this is trauma. Something happens to me and then I get something. What it seems like trauma is more like a seed. And depending on what it is, it starts to grow tentacles and it starts affecting other things. So what happened to me makes me think about the brokenness of my relationship with my dad, or the other time somebody left me, or the time, to your example, when I was lied to. So I think it's important that everybody understands that when you deal with something, if you don't deal with it, it's going to show up in other areas of your life, and those tentacles get a lot stronger over time. The more time that goes by that you don't deal with that. Is that fair to say?
Yes, and you have to be careful or keep in mind, we know what we would consider the activating event, dad not being there, but that doesn't explain your hostility towards your mother. That doesn't explain your hostility towards authority. That doesn't explain your hostility or your doubt in the legal system or some system, whoever the protector is supposed to be in your life. So the traumatic episode is Papa is not there. But why was that traumatizing? Because there was an element of safety that was impacted. Where is my dad? Did I do something wrong? One of the schemas in the brain is that I do something wrong. Later in life, don't be surprised if those people are comedians, doing Salvation Army, most good, just super, super, super nice because they're making up for that belief that they weren't good enough to keep their father around. No, mom and dad got a divorce. It had nothing to do with you. But as a kid, we have to think if he didn't have me, he wouldn't have been here. And then I have to think, well, mom, protector, even though she wasn't the one that left, I start to think, you let me down too. I don't say the words and I don't process it that way. So later in life, I go to get married. I fight to get the woman that I want. She has to have this. She has to have that like a robot I put together. She has to have one brown eye and one green eye. She has to have hair this way. I get all of what I want. And then I spend the rest of the time trying to break her because the schema in my brain and the impact of the trauma is playing out.
Oof. Oof.
Oh, you can't hear me?
No, Sir Hale.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, oh man,
Sir Hale is
sorry
mute.
about that. Yeah,
Sir
sorry
Hale
about that.
is mute.
Yeah. So guys, so
Can I
this
just
is good.
jump in? I cannot.
Sure.
Oh my
Go
God.
ahead. Sure,
You
go ahead.
know, just all that he says. I'm counting everything as he's talking. I'm counting all of the different experiences I had from a young child, how it affected me, how it still comes up in that tape in my head, although I'm still performing and moving and growing and learning. But that traumatic experience, I could relive it in seconds.
Yes, ma'am.
In seconds.
Absolutely.
It's almost like we tuck it away subconsciously because it doesn't feel good. But let something happen or see something, and then immediately I'm taken to that spot. You talked about the uncle. You took me to that spot. You talked about a traumatic experience. My husband was murdered the day my daughter was born. I was married and have been married 4 months. Same day. I have, and on and on and on. So it's like there's a library of different things up here. And to navigate through that as a woman, divorce as a young girl, And I guess Sir Hill will allude to teenage pregnancy. That's me too. So all of these different traumatic experiences, the traumatizing part of it, it's very hard to navigate through it to get to the point, like even where I am now. It, you know, and I know you're going to get to that, Sir Hill, but you just, and I'm not going to use the word trigger because it didn't trigger me to the point where I felt, oh, but it hit me though, because it's part of my story. And when you mentioned about how, in this part you mentioned, see, you're the doctor, I'm not. I'm the certified professional counselor. You're the doctor, so you got notches on me, but still, I understand what you're saying. And when you mentioned about how it stays there, even though you're functioning, you're married, you're having children, you're going to school, you're getting degrees, you look like everything's okay from looking at the person. But inside of this brain, inside of Sheila's heart and brain, I've been traumatized, and it's been traumatic experiences. Like sometimes I sit and wonder, how did I get to where I am now? It takes a certain kind of push and a certain kind of acceptance to not live in it and let it rule me. But I just want to say, you took me, because it's easy for me to, even when I see someone get shot, when I see, you know, when they talk about somebody got shot, young kids get shot, or they were on their way home. Well, my husband was on his way back to the hospital to see me. The next time I saw him, he was in the casket. So what do you do with that as a young widow at 18? So you understand, when you said that, I was like, wow, that's why when things happen, I'm thinking I've forgot about it or I'm okay. But when it happens, that thing rises up that you just talked about.
It never goes away.
No.
And if I may just add to it, and sorry, I don't know if you're going to go there, so just pause me if you need to. I'm going to tell you why it hits us, other than it being in the subconscious brain. I want us to consider how many times we've blamed or we gave credit to the most recent situation. I knew I shouldn't have trusted them folks ever since my divorce, ever since I was with when I was 18. But it's there before 18. People give credit to this person in this horrible relationship, and all you did was give them credit. They had nothing to do with it. Nothing. They might be the one activating it now, but they're not the main source. So we give this credit to this bad person, to this horrible job, but both of those, what's the common denominator? Safety with this person, safety with the job, messing with my money, where am I going to eat? Anything that involves safety. And trauma, actually, as I told you, is an injury. It actually shifts the brain. If you imagine clay, it actually shifts the brain. It's an injury to the brain. So it's not something people just pull their boots up. I don't know a single illness that anyone can just pull themselves up by the bootstraps and it goes away. So many talking points. They know better. They know better. That's bull. You need to snap out of it. You need to be a man. There is no man in this world that can poof away trauma. It doesn't work like that.
So let's pause here for a second. Everybody, I want you guys to hear what Doctor just said. I want you to take what Sheila said and Doctor said, and I want us from now on, we're not going to throw this word trauma out, because you just said something that I think is so interesting. If I get to use your example of Bravo with Sheila, if you guys see me get cut right here on camera, you guys get to see the physical manifestation of pain. Therefore, you labeled it as injury because you can see the effects of me being cut. From what you just described, an injury to the brain from trauma is the same thing. And just because we can't see that cut doesn't mean that the pain is any less real. So guys, we got to be more responsible when it comes to trauma. We can't throw that out to just your family, your friends. You know, you need to deal with your trauma. It's an injury, and injuries have to be cared for in a special way. Thank you, Dr. Nakambe. I wanted to make that point.
That's good. Bravo.
Now let's talk about that injury. What happens when we get a cut? Tell me, what happens if we get cut or an injury?
You start to bleed. It starts to scab. If you don't take care of it, it can start to, get bacteria and, get infected.
Yeah. So there's a system in our body, white blood cells and all that. They go to work, right? And they start to heal it. Now that's in our body, the biology stuff, the blood and all that. And then physically, like me actively wrapping it, providing first aid to it, So therefore, I have the body system doing what it does. If you're an easy bleeder, you're in trouble. But if it's going to naturally stop bleeding, you wrap it, it'll heal from the inside out. So let's keep that in mind. The same way there's different systems working to heal this, there's different systems responding to the trauma.
Yes.
Okay? Now, let me use an example. Red flags in relationships. People, you ought to know the red flags. You ought to know the red flags. Let me give you this. I'm actually attracted to the red flags. One of the systems, let's say, I don't know all the homemade things, but let's say someone says you need to put mud on there, put some poop on there, right? Whatever, put something that people are like, ugh. But then whatever it does, it helps to heal. Check this out again. What we would say is ugh, but it actually has an ingredient in it that helps it heal. So there's something about red flags that's actually appealing to me because of the trauma. So, Ms. Sheila, you said, well, you lost someone, and I say, well, it still goes to childhood. And if you think about the transitions, so not just people, but transitions. If you ever had to move, if dad was sick for a while and we all had to go to grandpa's house, for a 5-year-old, that's betrayal. It was all intended for good, but the brain was like, no, dad, like, what do we do? No, dad is sick, or dad is working abroad. So I go to grandpa's, we have a blast. Grandma and grandpa are like, woo, they stay up late, right? We just have a good time. But then in a few weeks or a month, when it's time to go back home, I'm about to experience another betrayal. I didn't stop loving mama and papa, but we gotta go. Well, how come we? No, you gotta go home. And even though grandma and grandpa can say it's soft, no, baby, you gotta go back home. Or they can say it to the other extreme, get your ass out, or whatever. But it doesn't matter. Either way, it's a betrayal by the people who love me, the people I'm supposed to trust. And at that age, the brain doesn't separate. Well, no, they love you. All right, let me tell you about the age. There's 3. We all have it, and people can research it, and I'll do all the research with you to prove it. We all have it, not multiple personalities, but there's one side of us that's known as a protector. There's one side of us known as a victim, and there's one side of us that's known as a witness. Now, who made these titles? I don't know. These are the Dr. Yahoos way before me. So the witness just kind of scans and takes data on what's going on in life. The victim, and remember the birthday party that I told you, even though it was a positive thing, that was still victimization. I felt betrayed. If you have a 2-parent home and they both work, that's awesome, but watch this. Dad, can you stay home from work today? Oh, little boy, man, Daddy has to work. That's a good thing. Daddy's working and providing for the family. I turned to Mom, I know you can't miss a whole day, but can you stay home for 1 hour? And she says, all the way to move. So when she says no, and from ages 4 to 7, 4 to 8, maybe 9, 10, I say the darndest thing. Mom, why do you work so much? Most parents will say they have to do what? Why do parents work?
They have to provide.
They have to provide. What's one of the things they have to provide? Food. Here we go. I'd rather starve and just have you be home with me for 1 hour. And when you say, I gotta go to work, quit playing, and you leave, guess what my brain processed? Dad abandoned me. Dad neglected me, even though he left me with baby care, daycare, and school. He didn't leave me in a bad situation. He didn't leave me in a bad situation. But in my brain, the schema is abandonment, neglect. Double down with mama. Abandonment, neglect. And when I told her I would die from starvation just to get 1 more hour, if it saves 1 hour and she left, that just told me that I'm not good enough. My death, my starvation is still not even good enough that she left. So I get another schema called inadequacy. Never enough. I would never ever think I amount to anything. Inadequacy. So that's my victimization. The witness is like the radar scanner to make sure these things aren't happening. And guess who the devil in disguise is? Our protector. The man in me will never let that little boy in me feel that pain again.
Mm-hmm.
The woman in you will never let that little girl in you feel that pain again. So if you have a kid who didn't feel heard, not now. Sit down. Let's do it tomorrow after work. Be quiet. Anything where they didn't feel heard, the protector in them takes off from where they left off. I'm gonna make a noise. So I don't know if you know people who talk like this. Swear to God. No. Swear to God.
Mm.
You know people who talk like that. You say, "Hey, calm down." They say, "I am calm." Look, you need to calm down.
Yes. Yeah.
That's because the protector is starting from the level of, you weren't heard, little guy. We're gonna make sure you're heard. But you know how that comes out, Sir Hale? Oh, I don't know. I've always been that way. It's just something about me. You don't mess with mine, but when I speak up, check this out. Remember when I talked about moving? If you move from California to North Carolina, when I was 6 years old, it was a family move, maybe for military or for work or whatever. When I'm in the back window waving goodbye, okay, you'll get over it, right? The traumatic episode is not just the travel. The traumatic episode is I just broke away from relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And I had no choice and I had no voice.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they asked me, but it was an ask tale. You think you want to go to North Carolina? Here's some pictures of where we're going. I don't know. Well, we leave tomorrow. Right? So it was an ask tale. So what do you think I grew up on? My victimization was I had no choice. I had no voice.
Mm-hmm.
I lost my friends and connections.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then my witness is always looking for opportunities to connect. So I'm not saying I'm a people pleaser, but I am awfully nice because I never know when people are going to break away from me. And my protector now has voice. So what if I'm dating a woman who she moved around with her family for whatever reason, either for not having rent money all the way to a job promotion or whatever. But now she feels she has voice. So when I'm trying to lead the family, even for positive things, she's not doing it intentional, but her protector is like, "No, man, we have a choice." And even though we can have a good conversation, babe, so, how would you like me to lead? How can we do this? Let's build something together. Let's build together. She's in it, like, yes. But then if I make a certain move, her protector, and slash perp.
So
I call it the perp because the protector would do it at any means necessary, even if it means to hurt others.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm on a diet and I feel sad. The perp says, "Eat some ice cream." Forgot my diet. So now, let me go back to the girlfriend. So now when she's like, "Oh, so you went and just the hell with me, huh?" No, I thought we. And it's in those moments where it feels like I'm attacking her. I disregarded her, I disrespected her. And it's in those future moments that I'm in therapy going, I don't get it. Like, she said for me to lead, and I did, and she took it as an insult, not even recognizing that was a traumatic response.
So let me jump in there because this kind of is going to pivot into the next thing. In these topics, we talk a lot about women, at least in my content I do. But like I was telling Bravo with Sheila earlier, there's a different tone that I'm applying now. And I'm doing this for a couple of reasons. There's a couple of reasons I'm doing this. Is it something to be said about the trauma that's obviated by consumerism? So think about what you just said moments ago about how she feels she buys something, whether this is food or something. Mm-hmm. Is it possible that a lot of the women who we see as traumatized, is very difficult for them to accept accountability? It's very difficult to anything that's a form of criticism. And there's a heightened need to buy stuff, the nicest bag, the nicest shoes, nice car. Is it possible that some of this consumerism we see is being used to either fill a void caused by trauma or to mask it? Let me start with Bravo with Sheila, and I'm gonna get back to you, Doctor. So what do you guys think about that? Is it possible that consumerism, to some degree, women use this to either mask a void or to fill a void caused by some level of trauma?
Wow, that's so deep, because to connect those dots takes you to really sit with yourself and to do some work. because they're so extreme and so separate, so we think. So if we have not had the information or even understood the consumerism is connected to my behavior as a consumer, it's connected to an event that happened to me that threw me off, whether, because I didn't know I was dealing with abandonment or being afraid to get close again from the trauma, but I didn't understand what was going on. So the consumerism, and I'm guilty of it. I mean, I'll sit and be online and I'll be buying things that I don't need. I'll buy stuff and then I'll say, it's too much stuff in here. Like, I got to get rid of it. You didn't need this. Why are you doing this? Then I have to sit with myself. And what are you doing? You are filling a hole. But where is the hole, Sheila? It's innocent what you're doing. You're not hurting anybody. So you just buy, and I like it and I'm buying it, but you don't need it. Is it a want or is it a need? And so I had to sit, and as we talk, I'm saying, you know what? I'm guilty of that, filling that void, the void which I could not connect the dots to the trauma or the traumas. In my case, it's the S, it's plural, right? So how do I assess me like that? Even being the counselor, helping others. I'm good at it. I'm good. I'm on point. You can talk to all of them. But then when it turns, you put the finger. That's why I say when nothing changes, nothing changes. And when you change, everything around you changes. And it takes a boldness to change, because then you have to be real and honest and truthful and really look in that mirror. So being a consumer, like you're talking about buying this and doing that and buying food. Consumerism has to do with excess eating, obesity, all these things that's masked, but a lot of people don't understand the behavior and where it's coming from. And if they don't stop, they get high blood pressure. Now it turns into a health thing. Then it then it affects the family. Then it becomes, a fight. Then it becomes violent. And so all of these things triggered from not identifying the trauma and the whole case of how it magnified in you. So yes, this consumerism is like across the board, that I was feeding myself with different things, not knowing that I was silencing the voice of the trauma. I was silent. I don't want to hear the gunshots. I don't want to see him in the casket. I don't want to see my little girl born the same day I don't even want her birthday to come. I do, but when her birthday comes, it's the day he got killed and the day she was born. So all these things don't go away. And that's right in your face. That's so powerful, though, to connect the dots. As women, connect the dots, sit in it, and just kind of face it. Do what you got to do, because it'll haunt you and it'll break you down. And if the root system was jacked up from the beginning and people mishandled you like I was, right? It causes breaches in relationships. And even in the relationships as an adult, you don't even figure out that your behavior is because of that thing, because that's not that person. So we have to, it's crazy in life and how this thing happens. If we don't catch ourselves and hold ourselves accountable, no matter how hard it is, if you want to have joy, if you want people to be around you, because sometimes people so messed up, people run when they see you because you're complaining, you're evil, you're blaming everybody. It's everybody's fault but yours, right? So that is so deep. So it rolls over to your whole life. As a woman, it rolls over to your personality. It rolls over to your feminism. It rolls over, because imagine me, I had to be strong. So now what's going to happen? Am I going to be feminine or am I going to be strong? I got 2 babies to take care of. So you want me to be feminine? I got to throw bricks. I got to feed them. So the beauty of the feminism slowly comes off. You can feel it coming off, because you're the provider, Sheila. You wear the pants, Sheila. You have to survive, Sheila. And then you have to catch yourself at some point, because you're like, whoa, wait a minute. I done lost me. Where am I? I yield.
Yes.
So before Doctor gets in here, I'm going to say this. I want you, I position this question for women specifically, because it's so easy to, I think in this climate, it is so easy. And again, I'm going to get some hate after I say this. It is so easy to focus on the negatives of so many women today that we don't address the root cause of the issue. Now, if we're doing this just for content, let's keep on doing it. Let's keep on. We got a surplus of this. But if we really want to help people, you start to realize that what we don't address today, I'll give this very general belief that I have. If you do something that makes you feel good now, knowing that it'll hurt you later, that comes from a form of trauma. And so when I think about women spending, you're buying $600 hair to make yourself feel beautiful. And if you don't buy the $600 hair, you feel as if you're not as valuable. That comes from a place of trauma. And I think it's so important that women, you have to look in the mirror and be honest about that trauma. Because too many of you think if you buy enough makeup, enough purses, enough shoes, enough clothes, you put your status on, you have the right husband, right man, that this is going to make you feel better. And nothing can satisfy trauma other than healing. Dr. Nakube, what's your thoughts?
All right. So here's my pushback. You can't see this. There's no mirror you're going to look into and say, I need to change this. The way this works, positives hurt. And so if I believe that I'm a failure, if I was told 1 or 2 times as a child, something positive, the kids at school don't like me, Dad. I think Frankie, and Dad says in a very positive way, son, look at me. Son, look at me. You are a king. You understand me? So guess what? If it doesn't match, those words don't match the behavior. You know how many times young females are told, oh, you're so pretty. You're so beautiful. You're so pretty. Oh, you're so beautiful. But 1 out of 4 females are handled and touched in some kind of way.
Correct.
So if I'm so beautiful and I'm so pretty and I'm so kind and I'm so sweet, why did that happen to me? And for the boys, if I'm such a king, if I'm so successful, one day you're going to be in the NBA. Swear to goodness, you will be. So those messages, although positive, they don't match my daily reinforcements of failure, my daily experiences of failure. And I get into a relationship, so even me, and to the point Ms. Sheila was making, I have to work on awareness. In fact, I say that I'm cursed now. It's like I'm almost cursed because I either tell on myself or I'm being transparent or I'm too weird and too this. But really what I do is I'd rather have those consequences than the consequences of the impact. And so my pushback for you, Sir Hale, for all of us to understand, it's not the trauma that we're responding to. I mean, it's not the trauma. So we don't look in the mirror and say, oh, I had trauma. It's the impact of the trauma and my coping skills that I chose to deal with those traumas. That's what gets me in trouble. My coping skills is to retreat. So I back out of things. I'm conflict avoidant.
Oh my God.
My coping strategy is to fight back. And immediately, you motherfuckers, damn, you're really so violent, fuck you. My coping strategy is to stay quiet. And people are like, you never talk. Now I'm going to get into some theatrics. I don't know if you want to put up a warning label there. It might be triggering for people. I want to put up some theatrics. Okay, so theatrics. If I'm a kid, or if I'm talking to my mother, if my mother suffers from mental health and she's not managing it, if my father deals with drug abuse and he's not managing it, or they just have the worst, they're just ignorant to parenting. But when my mom snaps, if I'm just telling her, I love you as a little kid, but she's already an adult, even if she's 15, 16, maybe she had me as a teen, but because of her, this stuff goes back 2 to 3 generations. 2 to 3 generations. If I have a 4 to 8 year old story, my mama has a 4 to 8 year old story. Her mama has a 4 to 8 year old story. I hear people talking about, we can't go back to the 1800s. You have to forget about this stuff. Goes back a minimum of 2 to 3 generations. And when we impact our kids, it's going to launch that forward 2 to 3 generations. So when you tell Pookie, shut the fuck up and sit down, and Pookie later grows up thinking he wasn't heard, is going to impact the way he shows up in the world, not only for him, but his kid and that kid and the next kid. So this is about 3 generations back and 3 generations forward. So it's not just trauma, and I know it's tomato, but I want to be clear.
There's a distinction.
The true issue is our coping strategy that we use that's no longer applicable today. Well, I'm not your daddy, and I'm not the person you're a judge, you're a boss, you're a whatever, you're human. And because we don't realize where it attaches to, because now coaching, the model of coaching is about today and moving forward. But if we don't know about the past, and if I'm willing to I'd like to do an example if it's okay with one of you. We don't have to get too deep, but I'll give you an example of how we totally don't even realize we've been reinforcing something. If one of you take me, I just have to ask you 3 questions.
Yeah. Before we get there, though, I want to read some questions first before we get here. And then what I like to do is I'm going to invite some guests, and I want to do that. I know what you're talking about. I want to get some guests to do that.
And
okay?
Just remind me to say coping, because coping. Bring me back to coping.
Okay.
Bring me back to coping.
Okay, good. Guys, if you're enjoying the show, if you haven't hit the like button, hit the like button. What we're going to do now is we're going to take some questions. Earlier, I told everybody if you got questions, add a Q in front of your question, and then we'll answer them. So we'll take some time to do this and to address super chats as well. First, start with super chats. Thank you, What We Know Podcast, for the $10 super chat. He says, I commend the doc for his contribution to help us to a greater understanding of self. Much love, bro. 100%. Salute to you, What We Know Podcast. Thank you so much for that. Really appreciate that. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you. Anye asks a question. She says, she asks a question. She says, how do you suggest we support someone who has gone through trauma? And I would even extend is going through trauma. We can start with, let's start with Doctor, and then probably with Sheila. You give a response as well.
And actually, part of that, it was still, because I didn't finish that story about the theatrics. I wanted people to be prepared. And that will also apply to your question. So when I'm this little kid, 5, 6-year-old, telling mother, Mom, I love you. I mean, I don't know if any of you experienced that when you were little kids saying the funniest things and the darndest things and just play. But Mom, from her 4 to 7-year-old story, she doesn't feel so loved. And if she's a younger mom, or she had me out of, maybe my dad is my step-grandfather, if she had one of those situations, then how do I represent love? If she had me out of whatever, all from the best situations to whatever. But if she has a core belief, in her core, if she believes she's not all that, then here we go. Mama, I love you. Protector hears I love you, crosses the traumatic, the reasoning, the try to figure this out. You love me, but I'm a piece of shit. I'm told I'm a dumbass. I'm a whore. And protector says, stop him from saying that. This is what's known as self-sabotage. Stop him from saying that. But because I'm talking about an unhealthy mother in this scenario, here's the response. Here's the trigger. Mom, I love you. What? Mom, what did I do? You don't tell me you love me. Sorry. You don't tell me you love me. And she's attacking out of her. And now I honor my abuser. I could block. I probably get it worse. So I actually am still putting my face there. So now I'm reinforcing to my mom that when she's abusive, the person is supposed to hold still. I mean, this stuff gets wicked. Listen, watch this again now. I won't be as aggressive with it. Mom, I love you. Computes to shut up. I look back at her just trying to explain I meant no harm. Which now reinforces and conditions, or what they say, set the mold that I would never block in the future. So it could be 10 years after this, but I say to my mom, I don't know where you got your parenting from. But if she's unable to connect where this came from, it's an attack on her. You know how many couples I see in therapy that when one person takes a breath, to the guy or to either one, the wife or the husband, when she says, "You don't pay no attention to me," that was a slap in his face. If I say something to them and they agree, like if I say, "Ooh, you haven't been providing too much intimacy," and if she goes, another mark. Every single thing that's said. But without me looking in the mirror, I don't see these marks. So then I can show that you say that, hey, moms, we got to do more. But I felt these. That was another, I have to do more. What the hell are you talking about? I have to do, and I don't know. I have all these bruises. And you say, well, when you look in the mirror, but the mirror doesn't show these. Or if they do show a few, And so these are just regular scars, and the men have these regular scars. But here's why I say we have to also consider for the women, if the woman's role, or she's been conditioned or we're promised, however it works, so from the religious way all the way to whatever relationship agreements you have, in addition to work, stress, dealing with other people, dealing with finances, dealing with that, we also add in taking care of the kids, taking care of my man, feeding you, clothing you, bathing you, getting up at 2 a.m. to change the kid's diaper, stubbing a toe, but still being strong enough to be there at 5 a.m. to make sure my man gets his lunch and meal, breakfast ready and lunch made for work, menstrual cycle or any other type of medical conditions. She hadn't even washed her hair yet, okay? So, and then she's told that she's supposed to do. So in addition to what the woman and or man experiences, because the man has to deal with society, being a man, being the leader, so he gets those too. But the reason it's usually the woman feeling it is because she's daily being reinforced, daily reinforcement that she's responsible. She has to make sure and make sure and make sure. But if you plant a seed, an apple seed, and you water it every day, you're going to continue to get apples. So if she was fractured, injured, impaired as a child, no matter how much you pour into her, let me say this last part, please, and then I'll land. I was talking about red flags. Let me say this part. So let's pretend, Miss Sheila, I'm pouring into you. I really care about you, but your protector might start thinking, if I fall in love with this cat, ooh, and then we go out to eat and I'm, and I don't even realize what you're thinking right now is, your fat ass gonna have a heart attack, and I'm gonna lose you. But you're not saying that to yourself. So you know what you probably say? Is that what how come every time and that's just coming out of anxiety, that's coming out of fear, that's coming out of concern, but I'm none the wiser. And so last part, Ms. Sheila, I was gonna ask you, how old are you roughly?
How old am I?
Yes.
Roughly, I'll tell you how I'm 69 years old.
69? Woo! All right, look at you. All right, so 69. Thank you.
Wait, whoa, hold on. Stop the broadcast. Wait. Bravo, really? You're 69?
Right?
Bravo. Like seriously, you really are.
Yes.
Everybody in the chat, I want y'all to show some doctor to come. I didn't know that. Everybody show some love to look, Bravo and Sheila is fine. Whoa. 69 years old. Oh, my gosh. Good grief. Okay, sorry.
All right.
We're back professional.
So do me a favor.
Yes.
Tell me in the last 6 months, from June to now, only from June until now, only in the last 6 months only, would you please tell me about a time that you felt disappointed? Any part of your life, school, work, home, your family, relationships, any part of your life, one story you remember feeling disappointed in the last 6 months.
One story?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, that I felt disappointed. I felt disappointed that I'm getting older and that I didn't achieve some of the things I had the opportunity to achieve. And when I did, I screwed it up.
And why would that matter?
The desire to feel like I did the right thing with what I had.
Okay, so you didn't do the right thing. So why does that matter to you?
Well, it doesn't now once I sat with it, but these are things that come up as you get older. You get different signals, you get different pictures, you get different memories, and you get different desires. The picture changes as you get older. The whole being changes no matter how I look
Yeah,
internally in my mind, things are programmed different now. And so I
right,
have to learn how to assess things in real time as I progress with my
right. But
age.
since you know that, why did it bother you? Why did it disappoint you?
I guess, well, I think it came back from the root of it is because I was always the one in the family that had to achieve and be right and don't mess up. My
Got it.
brother and my sister got away with everything, but my mother would always say, Sheila, you know better. You know
Okay.
better. That type of thing. And I think that still kicks up in me
Yeah.
that it's okay for me not to be okay.
Okay. So tell me the youngest age possible where you remember feeling disappointed about anything. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, as far back as you can remember, one time feeling disappointed. What pops up in your mind?
Disappointed with myself or disappointed, period.
Anything. Either someone
Well,
disappointed in you, you
oh,
feeling
okay,
disappointed.
okay, okay. You mentioned an uncle, right? So here's a story about an uncle that my mom really didn't feel comfortable around us being around. And this particular uncle used to touch me. And I never said a word about it because I knew that if I expressed it to my mom, that my mom probably would have killed him and then I wouldn't have my mom. So my mom went to her grave and I never told her to this day. Well, of course she's gone now. And I felt very, very disappointed. The other thing that I felt terribly disappointed was when I became pregnant as a teenager. I
All
felt
right.
terrible. I felt like I destroyed my mom. I destroyed everything. And because of that, my stepping in life was offset because I should have been playing in the playground somewhere, I guess.
Okay. So the first story, how old were you
Um,
of those
maybe
two?
maybe 9.
Okay. And you see if you can go back to 5, 4 years old and think of a time you felt disappointed.
I don't remember anything back that far because my house was a dysfunctional house. So I blocked things. I don't remember. I just remember my mom being a great mom and my dad being a great guy when he wasn't drinking. But then if he drank, the whole house was turned upside down.
Okay.
So the memories of the house was always my mom. The happy
Yeah.
times was my mom. Holding the family together was my mom. The kindness of my family, my father, I
Yeah.
remember. I remember
Okay.
his softness, his gentleness. But in terms of he took just a drink of a Miller, he just had that chemical imbalance where
Right.
some people can really put him down, and don't even
All
be
right.
drunk or anything. He could take a sip and you could tell that he had something.
Right.
And then he was Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. So there
Right.
are different scenarios. I've been disappointed a lot in my
Okay. But
life.
I just want the
Yeah.
one. I just wanted the one, just the
Okay.
main one, and then because I want to
Okay.
put this together. Sir
Okay.
Hale, do you remember what Miss Sheila said for her
Hold on, sir.
60th,
Say it again
69th story?
one more time, doctor. Your audio went out just a bit. Say it again.
Oh, do you remember Mrs. Sheila's the first story, the 69-year-old story of disappointment? Do you remember what she said?
I honestly don't.
All right.
Yes, sir. I'm
You
going.
wish
I'm
you
writing the
repeat
back
it?
chat and stuff. So
Say it again.
Do you mind repeating what you said about being at 69 in the last 6 months? Your disappointment was
Oh, not achieving some of the things that I would like to have now or
yeah.
like to have done. And then when I did have the money or the companies to do it, I didn't maintain it
So
the
let
way
me.
I should have.
All right. Let me pull that, and here's what I want people in the chat to hear. We'll go with the 9-year-old story, and that story involved you regretting you didn't tell your mother something at 9 years old. It's a hell of a coincidence that 60 years later, at 69, that story involves resentments and regret.
Hmm.
That is at the core. And if you start to follow the path of your life, I'll bet you'll see with glowing stars. I should have, could have, missed opportunity, resentment. And even when you learn to do better, like, come on now, you gotta let that go. Then the coping was, well, life is fluid. And you got to go with the flow. And if you miss that opportunity, don't beat yourself up. Mm-hmm. But the victim in you will see other victims and want to latch on to that. And that's why we go back. So if I run a triathlon, I do the running, the biking, and the swimming. And when I get out the water, I'm cold. Whoo, and that takes 20 minutes to warm up. And I've joined a few competitions and did well. Then I retired. And now I just go watch other athletes. And I watch the guy get out the water. In 30 seconds, this team runs up to him with this aluminum foil blanket thing and wraps him up and gets him warm in 2 minutes. The part of me is excited that he's doing it, but the victim in me says, what the hell? I had to sweat blood and tears and be cold. Blood was coming from my nipples from running and blah, 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 and this guy gets warm in 30 seconds? So don't be surprised that every once in a while when you're doing well, you hit another bump. Because when you see that this person, especially in your role, you're taking on vicarious trauma. Every time you're helping someone, you put another brick into your invisible backpack. Your victim collects another, damn, you got it like that, man, that's messed up. Boom, ooh, please. And your victim is like, that's your problem? Keep living to see what happens. Ooh, I hope you get it together. Life is short. So all those things you want to say, but anyway, I'll yield there. I hope that made sense and it addressed your question, sir. Did that make sense for you?
So I had a public counseling session.
But I do want to make sure that we're succinct though. So if we're asking something, a person says, how do I support someone who's dealing with trauma? Like in a simple
my
method.
bad.
Yeah, how do we do that?
Tell them to go get professional help. No. Well, that's the key word. If you say trauma, people might get defensive and don't think that dealing with trauma. If you see a person in shock and you say, are you in shock? They'll say, no. Are you okay? I'm fine. Here, sit down. And they're trying to stand up. So when you say trauma, that's the same as a person being in shock. Shift the words so you can have more collaboration. This is your fourth relationship you've been in where, well, yeah, because I just don't trust nobody. I don't trust them girls. And no, man, every woman's a bleep, 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 and every woman. And I want to say, oh, you probably been traumatized. But what I'll say is, that trust issue is kicking you in the butt. You should probably look into that trust issue you have. Nah, man, because ever since and I was with her and da-da-da, and since then, you never had trusting issues before then? I mean, well, everyone does. But you should probably look into that because it sounds like this is your fourth relationship. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe all those women had a committee meeting about it. I don't know. Maybe they all talked about you, but it seems like you get the same results from different people independently. I would invite you to look at that trust thing because it's really kicking you in the butt.
So essentially look at the root of the situation and don't respond to the noise about it. I think that's really good. Sheila, what about you?
I'm thinking the question is, how do you suggest we support someone who has gone through trauma? Well, I can talk about, I'm classic. So when it happened with me, let's take when my husband was murdered. My behavior changed. And that's when I said, went to bring me back to coping. And so when my behavior changed, I couldn't stay home. I had 2 little girls and my mother was upset. Everyone was angry with me. They labeled me. She wants to run. She wants to be out. Why is she not home with these kids? Why is she this? But no one saw what you just said. No one even took the time to connect. Well, maybe she's responding from what happened. But my mother said, she's okay. I love her. I'm showing her love. I got her. We love her. But I was so young. That wasn't enough. I needed help. I needed someone to talk to me. Like Anae is saying, what do you, the support? I didn't get the support 2 years later. So I had to navigate through the voices, through she's not home. She went out again. She's not being a good parent. I had 2 little girls at 17 years old. I mean, give me a break. My husband was murdered. How are you going to love me to wholeness? So the coping There was no coping for me. So to answer Inae's question from my personal perspective is that if no one is there to help you cope, it's just, I just felt I had to get back to my original intent.
Right.
I had to find my original intent in my life. And that
Right.
means I had to find my way until I bumped into people that could say the things that you're saying now. Well, Sheila, maybe, you staying out because you nobody talked to you. And have you ever been to counseling, Sheila? As an adult, they said,
Right.
you never went to counseling when that happened? I was like,
Right.
No, nobody thought to take you. But I think that comes from sometimes our people with that whole counseling and therapy thing.
Right.
No, I got her. Let me take care of her.
Right.
And time I'm dying on the inside. So
Right.
that's why I think also that I was wired to counsel and help people, because I've navigated through so much, right? Because I can't take you where I haven't been, right?
Right.
And I can only give you such as I have, right?
Right.
And so because my life has been so dynamic and complicated, that's the force that I have to help people see you can make it. You can
Right.
get through it.
Right.
You understand? So sometimes no one's there to pinpoint it. So to answer Inae's question, to support someone, I think it is to, once you see it, you have to love them enough to tell them, listen, like you said, this is your fourth relationship. This is, what, you have a trust issue. She might, or he might say, no, I don't think so. It was their fault. Well, no, not from what you said. You got to challenge people to receive and accept that maybe it's them. Even
Right.
though they went through a trauma, just talking to somebody with the right type of love and affection, love never fails. So when
Right.
you talk to somebody from a place of love, not a place of condemnation, not a place of judgment, people are more apt to say, you know what, I thought about that last night. You were right. And then they want help. So it's layers
Right.
and layers and layers of
Right.
things.
So, yep. So I totally agree, and I somewhat answered that question, but Sahel, let me say the question itself is not flawed,
Yes,
but we have to clear, huh?
Yes, so after this, we got to move on because I got limited time.
Yeah. Okay, I'll be quick. The word trauma, how do we help someone with, but see, trauma happened, the injury is the trauma. So unless we were there with them at 4 or 5 years old, see, even in Miss Sheila's story, what happened to her at 9 years old is what impacted her with the husband story. So even if someone came to you after your husband said, you have to, but the true trauma was at 9. So when I say we're helping them with understanding how they're coping, their current behavior, that's not the current behavior is not the trauma.
Mm-hmm.
They're responding to the trauma.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then the last part of that will be the collaboration. So if you've been in 5 relationships and I say to you, man, you've been in 5, thanks for reminding me that I can't have a relationship. No, it's probably not you. Clearly it's me. I can't have a relationship. So to avoid this self-sabotage and blocking the help, I partner with them.
Mm-hmm.
Man, 6 dudes did this to you. 6 women did that to you. That's some bull, man. Like, we need to figure out why these people keep doing that to you. How can we help so people stop doing that to you?
Right.
So what I'm saying is I want to partner with you and help build.
Take it all up. Take
Right.
it off. Right.
But we probably have to look into it. Then on their own, I think I saw that in the chat, you can't tell someone on their own. A person persuaded against their will is of the same persuasion still. But when they end up saying to you, hey, I'm going to be honest, and I appreciate your help, but shoes, I think I've been dealing with this kind of stuff for like damn near 15 years. What? Yeah, it's 15 years. Well, then you should probably do some deeper rooted work.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, my suggestion is you form the partnership and letting them know you're here with them, not against them.
Because it makes it this, right?
Yes.
You really pull it off of them, but not really. That's
Right.
the strategy.
Yes, they feel the opposite. Instead of feeling attacked, they feel embraced. They feel instead of feeling blamed or judged, they feel like you understand.
Exactly.
And then together with that understanding, even if I have to say to you brutally and honestly, hey, no, I'm with you, but that's kind of messed up. I mean, and I'd lay it out there, but we've already established that I wasn't saying that to hurt them. We've already established that. If I start that way,
that's that love never fails piece. That's that learning how to navigate with love.
Yeah.
Flexible but firm.
Yeah. And remember, if love hurts me, if I'm afraid of love, then even if you try and give me love, I'm going to reject it.
Right.
Because that's how I learned to cope. So I say this, Sahel, give me a chance to fail you. I agree with you. Every single person. Yep, and that sucks. Every person that's failed you. Would you please allow me my opportunity? Why would I give you a chance? Let me fail. Don't compare me to others. But if you do, let me fail you.
Mm-hmm.
Let me partner with you.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really good choice of words. And also to this is to the supporters. It is not your job to go fix them. I think a lot of people have good hearts and they want to help people with trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so easy. You start looking at how I remember when I was hurt. I remember when I went through something, and you start over loving, you start over giving, over delivering because you don't want anybody to feel what you feel. And what ends up happening is you make the matters worse because now I don't have to stand on my own 2 feet and do the work to heal. Now I'm relying on you serving as a sort of medication to the issue I'm dealing with. So
Codependency, codependent.
Yeah, supporters, it's important. It is not your job to fix them. When support means they're doing the work and you're there to assist them as they are doing the work. And it's important for you to say this because sometimes a wife will think it's her job to fix the trauma in her husband, or a husband to fix the trauma in his wife, or the children to fix the trauma in their parents. And it is not your job to fix, it's your job to support. Would you guys agree?
Mm-hmm.
I totally agree. If you get a chance, anyone in the chat, get to listen to Jasmine Says It All on one of her shows. I think she did 2 shows on the steps to take to answer your question. And I remember, and I see it in the chat, she talked about empathy. So you can have empathy for your husband and let him know you understand, or you can have sympathy because you went through it with him. But empathy means that you know what it's like to have that feeling, and I don't want you to go through that. How can I support you? How can I support you? Asking, how can I support you? How can I support you? So empathy, and I just remember, so if you get a chance, Jasmine Says It All has 2 shows on how to deal or heal from trauma.
Okay, guys, and so I got to get ready to get out of here. So I got to truncate this and ask one more question. So we kind of alluded to family a bit. We talked a little bit about finances. Now I want to deal with the core. People are done. A lot of people in today's world, specifically men, are saying, I'm done with marriage. I'm just done. So let me do this really quickly. I'm going to share this video. I'm going to play just a little bit of it, just a bit of this video for context. And then I have one last question, and then we'll wrap up the show. Okay.
All right, y'all. I might catch some hate for this video, but to be honest with you, that's fine. I don't care. In 2023, what is the benefit for a man to get married, settle down, make a family, whatever? Because I did everything right according to society, according to how I was raised, according to these views and what women want, and it still didn't matter. You know what I mean? I'm still about to be 35, divorced with 2 kids, and I did everything right according to the way I was raised or society. 80% of divorce is initiated by women. Woman cheats on a man, files, and this isn't for everyone, I understand that. But if a woman cheats and files a divorce, whatever the case is, she ain't happy, she automatically gets half of whatever that man owns, or you guys own. He's automatically supposed to pay child support. Why is that? Why is it set up like that?
And that's what I want to talk about, not specifically that clip, but seeing that clip, maybe ask a question. And this is the trauma we get from a heartbreak from the person we loved. And I mean this romantically. How do we overcome this? Because it's often said, you need to just go heal. Lady Sheila, if somebody broke your heart, go pray and go heal. Dr. Nakumba, you got your heart broken, go to the gym and go heal. How do we really tackle heartbreak? Because here's what I've learned from some people. A heartbreak can happen 25, 30 years ago, and it could still hurt for 25, 30 years because we don't know how to address it. So that's what I want to end on that note. How do we deal with heartbreak? And from your perspective, do you think that heartbreak has an impact on men's lack of desire to want to be married in 2023? We'll start with Dr. Nakumba, and then we'll go to Bravo with Sheila.
Yep, smart move, because then I can get mine, and because I'll keep talking. All right.
No. I just want to. I'm just keeping the conversation flowing.
I'm gonna keep it simple. And I didn't start this way, but over time when I learned, it's not heartbreak. I mean, those are the words, heartbreak, but it's abandonment. No one likes to deal with feeling abandoned. disappointment. No one likes to disappoint. Man, I'm about to be divorced. That means somehow the woman decided to leave me. I disappointed. So it didn't have to be a heartbreak. What it was a broken agreement. It was a disappointment. It was an abandonment. It was a schema that's in the subconscious mind and a core belief that I can never have a successful. Kind of projecting. Remember when I talked about moving and the kid is waving goodbye? That's a heartbreak. Like if he had a good friend, maybe 8, 9 years old, lost a pet, that's a heartbreak. But the other word for that is called betrayal, meaning I felt betrayed in it. So yes, heartbreak is kind of the umbrella, but I would narrow it down even more to see what that heartbreak was about. It could have been his favorite pair of shoes that someone stole from him, and that was a heartbreak. So that's my 2 cents.
So the question is, so with that, how do I identify and how do I recover from that? Or at least how do I start to cope with that and I don't take that pain into the next relationship?
Yeah. So one, you have to first figure out what that heartbreak is related to. And then what coping skill did you create for that heartbreak? Meaning I'm never trusting anyone again. I'm never getting married. You can miss me on that marriage stuff. I heard Sean's thing. I heard Samantha. You can miss. So I'm taking on these stories. I'm taking on the social media. I'm taking on all the influence, and I'm rejecting. Even though there's already a book, if you follow the unity, the agreement from God is already, it was way before the social media. It's already right there. But if I'm not following this, or I'm not following that, or I broke away from the family agreements or the family traditions or whatever, and I created my own path, then in order for me to repair, I have to first look at what kind of booby traps did I put on that path to make sure I don't get hurt? How am I rejecting others? How am I pushing away from others? How am I responding to your needs? Subconsciously, a lot of men don't even realize they get into situations and run their mouth about, I'm going to do. I have to tell myself, dude, be careful. You're going to make all these promises and make it sound good, but can you sustain that? So my reality is I need to go get help about how to not overcommit, how not to overpromise, because I underdeliver, which then leads to my feeling of disappointment. And when I feel like I'm disappointed, I'm good on relationships. So to that person, remember, trauma, sure, that's a word, but they don't know what they're going for. They go to therapy and say, yeah, I guess they've been traumatized. But if you haven't picked a therapist that knows how to do trauma work to get to the root, then they're only going to help you deal with the situation. That's the biggest moneymaker for therapists. You can come every week. How did that make you feel this week? And what did you do this week? And how did that make you feel this week? We never once touched the trauma. We didn't touch the root. We've only been up here in the bushes. Every situation. So deal with the root, not the situations, not the. That's what you have to work on.
That is fantastic. Everybody deal with the root. Now, I think if you're okay with this, Lady Sheila, if you're okay with this, Doctor, at some point I want to do a part 2 to this.
Absolutely.
And I really want to examine. And the reason I'm doing the show is because people hear, but when they get an example and they can see it in their life, that's when they can do the work. And I want to make this picture is crystal clear for anybody. The complicated concept of the magical word of psychology, and break it down where we can. There's some little bites that we can take and take little steps to get better in our life. So if you're okay with that, I want to plan a part 2 of this at some point.
Absolutely. I remember my email to you was like, hey, we should do this topic, man. This is a big topic. You might even have a part 3.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yes. So, Bravo Sheila, the question is on you. So I'm dealing with the heartbreak, and I'm dealing with this, and as a result of this heartbreak from this person that I love, I don't know how to overcome this. I don't even want to do marriage anymore.
Yeah.
How do I deal with this?
Well, first of all, someone coming into the therapist's office and the counseling office, that's the first step, because many people sit on the sideline and they live their life till they get old and gray and bitter, not better, but bitter.
But this, Bravo, before you say that, I want you to know that I'm a Christian and I prayed about it. Is that enough?
No, that's not enough. That's a good thing that you have faith. That's a good thing that your belief system can help you, push. But the reality and the practicality of a human being, you have to deal with the root cause. And for the last 2 months, I don't know, the Lord has just been dropping. I've been doing all kind of clips all over the place about the root cause. If your root system has been tampered with, if it has been distorted, no matter if you were young when it happened, middle-aged, teenage, adult, whatever, because it's been fed the wrong soil and because it's been fed, not watered in the right way. I don't care who you are. If you get in a relationship and say the relationship, like the doctor was saying, he made some valid points. But still, the bottom line, I think also, is that heartbreak sometimes, and I've had many people say that heartbreak is an unbearable pain, because they deal with the denial, the anger, even the bargaining and the depression. And if they don't get to acceptance, then they'll be around in this circle over and over and over again. And I believe that everything has a beginning and everything has a root cause. And, you know, I've been talking about this palm tree. The palm tree will be in a storm, right? It'll be a tornado and the house will be down. The plants will be pulled up and the palm tree will bend, but it'll snap back because of its root system. So I think with us talking about it again, getting deep into like the root is up here, but it's under the soil that needs to be challenged. And that's when people have to sit. Heartbreak is very difficult. You know, it increases stress. People want to delete themselves. They can't bounce back. They put too much of themselves, especially if they're not healthy on the inside. They put so much expectation on the other person, and then they cause the other person to be the job of taking care of them and their emotions. So again, it's that personal sitting down, learning about yourself and going back and try to figure out and get people to help you. Because if the root is contaminated, I don't care how you look, how you dressed up, how cute you are, the root system's going to yell and speak. That's who's speaking to you. The root is speaking. The body is talking, right? But everybody is masked. Not everyone. I can't say everyone. Can't say that word. A lot of people are masking. So heartbreak is difficult and I know women and couples that come in and my heart is broken. You know, he doesn't love me. No one loves me. No one loves me. You just said your husband don't love you. Well, yeah, no one loves me. Well, you just told me your kids love you and your daddy love you and your sister love you. Yeah. I said, so your husband doesn't love you. So it's irrational. It's that irrational thinking that we have to challenge people and help them to see that mistakes are what we do. They're not who we are. And there is hope if you can just accept truth about yourself and don't allow those haunted horror stories to keep speaking. Like Doctor said, they're there, but I don't let them yell and scream at me. I learned how to trigger myself off. If I feel myself going off on a little journey up here and start thinking too much, you think on sad things, it gets in your emotions, my behavior will follow. If I think on happy thoughts, my emotion will follow those thoughts. So it's on purpose, intentional. And so I just think this is something you can't talk about in one sitting. It's like so vast and open. There's so many aspects and layers to people and to life. And everyone has an individual story, but everyone is not maybe strong enough or don't feel. And once they get the signals that I'm nothing, I'm never going to be nothing, I messed up, I failed. And I really appreciate you putting me on the spot, asking me those questions, because usually the counselor don't get anybody to really say much. You know, I'm the one pulling out, pushing. But when you took me back, it also showed me that I was healed on a level that I didn't know I was healed on just by talking about it freely in front of all these thousands or hundreds of people. I'm okay being transparent because, you know.
Right.
So
and my apologies. I should have clarified more. I was like, well, we won't get too deep.
No. It's fine because that's who I am. And people that come to my channel, Sir Hell knows that I talk about myself. I expose myself because I know who I am. Right. I know who I am. So no one can tamper with that. I'm solid in that. And if I can expose myself for somebody say, oh, I ain't know she went through that. Yeah, I did. What you going through? You want to do something? Let's talk about it. Right. You know, so that's my thing. Just trying to help somebody. And if it takes me to share, I'm good, because I'm good right now. I'm telling you, I am good. I could talk about anything about Sheila Ingram.
Yes.
I yield.
Right. Beautiful. Sorry, I just want to give a disclaimer. There is no one way. The stuff I'm talking about is just more kind of a clinical perspective, but there's no one way. I totally agree with you, Mrs. Sheila, that a person just talking might provide the relief. A person going to do some real forensic work might do the anything that any attempt they make is what we want them to do. Like take one step forward, no matter what that method is. You watching those animal shows? The animal, like the lions and stuff, they hide up in the bushes, like they grab their food and run up in the bush, up here up the top. And this is where a lot of people, because it's safe up there. The leaves and stuff protect me. I'm shielded by this.
Absolutely.
The roots are down there, but I'm shielded up here.
Yes.
And heartbreak for me would be power and control. Like if I don't feel power and control, my sisters were taken away from me. My mama beat me. I had no sense of power and control. As a stand-up comic, when I'm doing comedy, if I bomb on the show and I leave the show feeling heartbreak because I didn't get anyone to laugh, I didn't get anyone. I felt like I disappointed.
So
heartbreak is the feeling, but the root of the heartbreak is I disappointed. These people paid money. I let them down. So heartbreak feeling. But can you tell the difference between chest gas or stomach gas, anxiety or heart attack? Right? People going to the hospital. I had a heart attack. Oh, you just had gas.
Right. True.
So heartache is very real.
Yeah.
And first see what you can do to calm the heartache. Until you get this calm, you're not going to do any work on anything else.
True.
So calm the heartache, and then let's figure out what's the cause of that heartache.
Amen. That's right.
Yes, so
Sheila, we have to do this again. I love it. I love it. I love it. And Sir Hale, thank you for those in the chat. I appreciate the opportunity to share these perspectives with you. Thank you. I look forward to seeing you guys in part 2.
Yeah, we're not done just yet. So, we're not done. So, I'm setting this particular question last for part 2 because I kind of want to deal with the grief and the loneliness. People, I did some shows back then. The world of psychology is my thing, so I did some things on emotional intelligence. I think Bravo with Sheila. I think you remember those broadcasts, emotional intelligence and things like that.
Yeah,
and I wanted to continue, but I took a break for a bit. But I think we're going to pick that back up. But broken heart syndrome. I'm setting this particular question up for the next segment and dealing with broken heart syndrome and how our very real experiences, stressors, emotional, the impact that this has on our very physical self. So we'll put a pin here and then we'll use this for part 2. We're good.
That's
all right.
Powerful.
All right, good. So let's do this. Let's final thoughts because I got to get to the gym. So final thoughts. Let's give Bravo with Sheila. Let's final thoughts. Let's take about 2 minutes. And then final thoughts, and then please at the end let us know how we can connect with you as well. All right, everybody, did you guys enjoy the show? In the chat, if you enjoyed the show, please show your love for Bravo with Sheila and Dr. Nakumbe. Lady Sheila, it is on you.
Well, I'd just like to say to all of you, those that are here now and those that will come after the fact, that there's an original intent that's designed for you. I don't care where you've been, what you've walked through, what someone said about you. There's an original intent, and that original intent holds nothing but beauty and strength and love. And so when you come back and re-step to go forward, you can do nothing but win. When your root system is destroyed, and I mean destroyed, tampered with, where you're living in secret, crying in secret, no one knows that you're dealing with these things. All it can do is poke at you and poke at you and poke at you until it has just demised you. So my hope and my prayer is that everything that the doctor has said, I had my input in Sir Hale, but the doctor gave some real strong from his education and what his love for people. Take heed to it. Take it, look at this again and take some notes and deal with you. Be honest with you, because when nothing changes, nothing changes. You can't slice that no kind of way. If nothing changes, nothing changes. So what do you have to do? I heard you. You got to make a change, and you got to what? Keep it moving. I love you so much. I hope to see you again. And thank you so much for being so kind in the chat to all of us.
Excellent. Wonderful stuff. Dr. Nakumbe, I think this is the first true broadcast we did together. Typically, we do a show and you come up and you offer perspective, but I think it's really good when we start a show and we talk through some stuff, because I think people got a chance to see themselves in the conversation we had, and I really appreciate your contribution. So, final thoughts, and then how can we connect with you as well?
Pastor Sheila, thank you for the space to share this space with you, to have the conversation. I think one of the things that we can get to in part 2 is one of those methods of healing is to actually allow outside of yourself those spiritual connections, those human connections, the relationship not just with others, but the relationship with yourself and your higher power. And I think people also dismiss that. Sometimes the higher power gets the blame. So because it's so like, I just like to invite people to consider some of the points that I mentioned, and be prepared though when you listen to some of those points. Your protector has no interest in being out of business. Your protector has no interest in being out of business. So you might hear some of these things we're saying, and you'll put up an instant defense. Sounds good. Thanks for the info, but the protector is not going to want to be out of business. So please have an open mind. Just take notes. Whatever, listen to it, and whatever hits you, take notes. Whatever hits you, take note. Find someone you trust to then reflect on these notes. I was listening to this podcast, the YouTube, and I heard, I don't know, it kind of made sense. Like I can see myself, but this one, I don't know, I reject. Process that with someone you trust, someone outside of you, and then get the help. But no, that help can take as long as you need it to be. Marriage does not have to be done. Unions do not have to be done. The same way there's premarital counseling. Look at what, in fact, my program, one of the things I do is called a DNA, a pre-relationship DNA. See how you line up and how they line up and how it matches. What are you going into the relationship with? Recognizing you are bringing trust issues into the relationship has nothing to do with that person. So own your stuff. Take your time doing so. Be prepared for the rocky wave as you're going, whoa, love yourself. You deserve it. You earn it. You've earned it just by being you. All right. We are all flawed in our own way. No one person is better than the other. I thank you again for the space, for the opportunity, and I look forward to being in these circles with you again. Thank you. You can find me on the drnakumbi.com. My Facebook is my most social. I have a YouTube channel. If you would subscribe, that would be great. There's no content there yet. Mostly on my Facebook. Letsgetatit.com. I also am willing and open to do some consultations with you at Dr. Nakumbi, NAKUMBE.com. Thank you.
All right, guys, this has been an outstanding show. Everybody give your hands a round of applause. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. As we wrap up, I'll have the links to both of our guests in the description after the show is done. But I want to leave you guys with this. You matter. And too many of us are going through life. You're holding on to feelings because you've been made to feel like your feelings don't matter and you should just squash them. No, you've got to deal with them. You got to deal with them so that you can move on with your life and you can be everything and have everything that God has for you. Now, while we have shows and we have a good time, I'm a faith-based person. And I believe that in order for you to get and to become everything that's meant for you, there's some healing that has to take place. And that starts with you understanding that you matter. Have a great night, everybody. Great weekend. If you're not getting into the gym, y'all know, get into the gym. It helps you in every area of your life. Much respect to you. Much love. Until next time, we'll talk with you guys again soon. Have a great night and a great weekend.
Let it go. 얼어붙어 like whoa. 띵하고 어지러워. I see. 한여름에도 넌 겨울. Yeah, girl, cold-blooded. Yeah, 너와 있을 때 I swear. 제가 먼저 zero 폭설한 그 chill 꿈에도 I wasn't dumb. 나만 빼고 넌 모두에게 참 친절해. 내 신감이 들어 단판이 태도 머릿속을 흔드니 ibuprofen 그만해 it's time to stop. 승부욕을 자극하는 style. Yeah, 알면서도 마음이 자꾸 내게 가. I'ma 빠져버릴까. If you want me back, I'll tell you I'm sorry. If you want me back, I'll tell you stop trying. Yeah, you got me. Let it go. 얼어붙어 like whoa. 띵하고 어지러워. I see. 한여름에도 넌 겨울. Yeah, girl, you're cold-blooded. Yeah, girl, you're cold-blooded. Yeah. 요새 뭐야 모두 stress은 gotta let it go 했어 소개팅 데이팅 어플 다 깔아 또 보았어 반대가 끌린대 ever since the track Don't know about me and you, yeah we fell into the cracks Yeah 갖고 너네 no cap 왜 나는 보여 what's happening 객관적일 수가 없이 이미 game white flag and wave it fast Yeah I'm leaving back but 말은 don't know만 보면 나도 내 맘 I don't know 이건 love a relationship 헷갈리기만 해 girl I'll tell you I'm sorry if you want me back I'll tell you stop trying Yeah, yeah, you got me Let it go 얼어붙어 like whoa 어지러워 I see 한여름에 더 너겨울 가까이 cold-blooded Let it go 얼어붙어 like whoa 어지러워 I see 한여름에 더 너겨울 가까이 cold-blooded 가까이 cold-blooded Yeah, yeah, yeah 가까이 cold-blooded 가까이 cold-blooded 가까이 cold-blooded Yeah, yeah, yeah 가까이 cold-blooded 가까이 cold-blooded